Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Joint Standing Committee on Labor and Housing. We are going to have a number of work sessions on our agenda this afternoon, but I'm going to give everyone a little bit of good news. The day just got a little shorter. We are not going to take up LD 677 today. We do have one information request, and I wish to get the information on that before we proceed. So we will work that bill likely on Friday. We are also not going to take today up the unemployment compensation bills, LD 1564 and LD 1571. We're going to also do those on Friday. Friday will be our long last day of session. And I'm sorry that the good representative from Kennebunk, Representative Gare, won't be with us that day, but she will be celebrating her son's graduation. So that will be the most important thing for her. And I believe, as far as I'm aware, that's all we're not going to take up today. So we're not going to do these in this order, but we have LD 1231, LD 1436, LD 1580, LD 1613, LD 1644, and LD 1656 we will be taking up today. So, surprise, surprise, everyone. I get phone calls right before we go on and say, don't do that. So here we are. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look to the attendee list, as good Chairman Sylvester does from time to time, to see if we have any bill sponsors who are here that are not on our committee who might be ready to go. And it looks like I see Representative Madigan from Waterville. And I know that we moved her work session from a previous meeting because of a death in the family. And so we're going to open up the work session on LD 1613. And Ms. Thompson, forgive me for not alerting you to the order of things. I know you like to have the placards up so people know what we're working on, but we're just going to go with the flow today. Resolve directing the Department of Economic and Community Development, the Department of Labor, and the Department of Transportation to develop partnerships with businesses, unions, and educational programs and institutions to provide training and transportation for workers, presented by the good Representative Colleen Madigan of Waterville. Welcome, Representative Madigan. And Mr. Langland, before I call upon you to present the bill analysis, I will recognize Senator Guerin, whose hand is raised.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just trying to get in early enough to say that we will need a breakout room to caucus before we do any voting today.
That'd be perfectly fine. We're gonna take this analysis and we can caucus as many times as we need throughout the day as we
okay.
Okay. That's for both sides, okay? Since we had a nice long leisurely lunch and I had to go and water a couple of things. So there you have it. So, Mr. Langland, please present the bill analysis on LD 1613.
Sure. So LD 1613 is a resolve, and it directs the Department of Economic and Community Development, the Department of Labor, and the Department of Transportation to collaborate to develop partnerships with businesses, unions, and educational programs and institutions to provide a hub for workers to get transportation to training programs, apprenticeships, and jobs, and receive information about open positions and training opportunities. It specifies that the departments shall focus on areas with no viable public transportation, consider creating a fund for young people in job training programs, including technical education at secondary schools for driver education with participation based upon a means test and including youth in foster care, and coordinate with businesses, unions, educational programs and institutions, training programs, employers, and community organizations to improve dissemination of information about available job opportunities and resources for training and transportation. It requires a report to 3 committees by January 1st of 2023, with the committees that have jurisdiction over labor and housing matters, innovation, development, economic advancement, and business matters, and transportation matters. All 3 committees can submit legislation to the first regular session of the 131st legislature. The committee has not yet received a preliminary fiscal impact statement.
Thank you, Mr. Langland. Are there any questions from the committee about the bill analysis? And since Representative Madigan is here, I will recognize her to say a few words about this bill, and also we express our deepest condolences to you for the loss of your beloved father. You are
Thank
on.
you.
Yes.
I think the analysis kind of sums it up, that what I'm looking for with the people of Waterville and other areas that don't have public transportation are looking for a collaboration between interested parties so that young people who want to get good paying jobs can get transportation to those training programs. And I see it as an economic development issue. Because there's so many trades that are needed, particularly in the rural areas. Um, and we have open jobs sitting at BIW. So I think this is a way that we can get young people that are interested in working there and working in the trades to the trainings they need.
Thank you. And you don't have any amendments presented. So what we're going to do at this moment is, Ms. Thompson, if you could assign us to our breakout rooms, and we'll take a brief caucus on this piece of legislation. And then we'll be back after we do that.
Representative Madigan, were those your bagpipes that played us out of the room?
Yes, it was the ringtone to my phone, which is actually a song in World of Warcraft, for those of you who are still interested in that kind of stuff.
I thought that might be what that was, but I just thought I would ask.
Yes, it's the theme to Grizzly Hills in Northrend, so you know.
Well, it made for a festive travel to the other room, so we appreciate it.
No problem at all.
We will resume our work as soon as our colleagues return from caucus, and it looks as though the next bill that we will take up belongs to the good Representative Millette, because I see her waiting patiently. So when we finish the work session on 1613, we will move to the work session on LD 1656 for anyone who's listening, watching, willing to participate, should we ask you to. We'll be at ease for another few minutes. Thank you.
We are back whenever everybody else is back. We're ready to roll.
Welcome back, everyone. We are in a work session on LD 1613, resolve directing the Department of Economic and Community Development, the Department of Labor, and the Department of Transportation to develop partnerships with businesses, unions, and educational programs and institutions to provide training and transportation for workers. Said it all in one breath. That might be the longest title ever. Thank you, Representative Madigan, for giving that to us. Chair recognizes Chairman Sylvester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would make a motion ought to pass.
Been moved ought to pass. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Representative Rader, moved ought to pass by Chairman Sylvester, seconded by Representative Rader. Is there any discussion from the committee on the motion? I will just say that thank you again, Representative Madigan, for bringing this bill forward. It certainly looks to put people back to work, which is what we all want, in a way that doesn't seem like it's going to be a burden on us fiscally. So there you have it. Ms. Thompson, please call the roll.
Senator Hickman.
Yay.
Hickman, yay. Senator Guerin.
No,
Guerin, no. Senator Miramont.
Yay.
Miramont, yay. Representative Sylvester.
Yay.
Sylvester, yay. Representative Bradstreet.
No.
Bradstreet, no. Representative Cuddy. Representative Cuddy's absent. Representative Drinkwater.
Nay.
Drinkwater, nay. Representative Gear.
Yes.
Gear, yes. Representative Morris.
No.
Morris, no. Representative Pebworth.
Yes.
Pebworth, yes. Representative Prescott is absent. Representative Rader.
Yes.
Rader, yes. And Representative Warren.
Yes.
Warren, yes. It is 7-4 with, I think, 2 absent.
7 members voting in favor of the motion, 4 voting against the motion with 2 absent. The motion prevails. Minority report?
Ought not to pass.
Ought not to pass it is. I will close the work session on LD 1613. We will open the work session on LD 1656, an act to promote energy efficient, affordable housing presented by Representative Rebecca Millett of Cape Elizabeth. Mr. Langland, please present the bill analysis.
So you should have received last evening sponsor's amendment to the bill, and I'll just go through the changes that the amendment makes to the bill. So it removes the requirement that between 55 and 65% of apartments built under the program must be set rate or subsidized apartments. It changes the bill to reflect that tenants of subsidized apartments shall not pay more than their required percentage of income on rent and utilities combined as determined by federal standards. It specifies that subsidized units must be reserved for households at or below 70% of the area median income as calculated and published by the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development at their time of application. Project owners may set more restrictive income limits for subsidized units. Once tenancy is established, the increase in a household's income cannot be used as a reason for terminating tenancy. The amendment specifies that housing built through the program must provide renewable energy production for on-site utilization of annual energy production of no less than that of a standard photovoltaic array of an area totaling 80% of the project building's roof area. The amendment specifies that housing built through the program must be owned and controlled by a corporation whose primary purpose is the development, operation, or preservation of permanently affordable housing on a not-for-profit basis for low-income and moderate-income households, such as a land trust, housing trust, or limited equity housing cooperative. The amendment specifies that for the purpose of leveraging additional private capital and tax credit investment, a project may be owned wholly or in part by a for-profit corporation, so long as an ownership entity described in Section 7 has a right of first refusal to purchase the project from the for-profit corporation, and the entity described in Section 7 is either A, a full owner or joint owner of the for-profit corporation with decision-making authority for the project, or B, a leaseholder of the project with decision-making authority for the project. The amendment also specifies that the Community Advisory Board of Stakeholders will advise the authority on rulemaking for implementation of the program and report on the status of the program's impact on the community. It also specifies that costs of the board will be covered by program appropriations. The amendment specifies, in considering criteria for where the authority shall locate new housing through the program, that project proposals that are geographically located in or proximate to communities in which there are chronic and severe shortages of affordable housing, specifies that the authority will prioritize projects designed to be affordable to households at or below 30% of the area median income calculated and published by HUD, and it also includes project vouchers. It removes the provision allowing the Attorney General to act against the authority if it does not comply with the provisions of the bill. And the amendment changes the funding from a one-time appropriation of $100 million to $25 million appropriation in fiscal year 22 and $75 million appropriation in fiscal year 23. It specifies that no more than 10% of funding can be used on administrative costs. And it also specifies that federal funding must be utilized within dates as established by federal guidance. I did include a link to my written testimony in my bill analysis. There was a lot of testimony that mandating project labor agreements is problematic. There was testimony that affordable housing contractors would not bid on projects subject to such a requirement. There was also testimony that PLAs will merely encourage out-of-state contractors to come to Maine, work for a year or two, and then go back to their home states. There was also testimony that PLAs will increase the cost of construction. I did want to note there was a potential amendment discussed at the public hearing from Representative Grahowski. She recommended that number 6 in the bill requires a certain amount of renewable energy generation to be located on-site or nearby. The amount required is related to the building's roof area, which I understand the amendment does. She also recommended using the word electricity instead of energy, since the goal is probably not to generate renewable natural gas. She also wanted the committee to consider adding a requirement similar to the energy production requirement that I discussed above that provides for a minimum amount of green space. Some of the committee requests for additional information was the study cited by Representative Millett from the University of Maine on PLAs, which I have attached to my bill analysis. And there were also a slate of questions that were asked of Eric Jorgensen at Maine Housing, which I've also attached and sent to you yesterday in an email. And a preliminary fiscal impact is not yet determined, but the bill calls for 25 million in the first fiscal year and 75 in the next. And with that, I'm happy to yield to the sponsor. If you have any questions on the specific amendment, I wasn't involved in drafting it, so she probably knows it much better than I do. And I think that Peter Merrill from Maine Housing and Eric Jorgensen are here as well.
Thank you, Mr. Langland. Are there any questions for the bill sponsor, Representative Millett, who is with us today? If you could please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I am Rebecca Millett. I represent House District 30, which is most of Cape Elizabeth.
Thank you. And will you just let us know how you came to this amendment?
Through lots of work. And so I need to really express my deepest gratitude for Mr. Merrill and Mr. Jorgensen for making themselves available, not only on a Friday afternoon, but throughout the weekend. They went above and beyond on helping me try to craft something that would make sense for housing in Maine. As I did express in the public hearing, I'm coming at this from the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. I don't often dip my toes into housing, and it comes close to special education rules in terms of me wanting my head to explode and trying to understand the intricacies. So having their expertise has been really instrumental. So a lot of the changes that you see are a result of testimony received, feedback received, questions asked, and the conversation both in the meeting and through emails and texts with Maine Housing. I'm not going to go into it. I think that Mr. Langland did a great job of reviewing the changes with you, and I'm happy to attempt to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Representative Millett. The chair recognizes Representative Sylvester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just curious, took me a little while to track it down, but you kept the word energy instead of electricity, and I wondered if that was something you pondered. It was one of Representative Grahowski's proposed amendments, and I just wondered if there was a reason that you kept energy as a, when you nudge something in this area.
Well, I will have to say that I had to rely on external experts for that particular area. They did make changes, but decided to keep that language specifically. I know folks are listening, so if I hear anything via email or text, I'll raise my hand and share that with you.
Appreciate that, Representative.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Representative Ward.
Thank you very much for being here. I wanted to ask about the other piece that Representative Grahowski mentioned, which was a minimal amount of green space, and also if there's any clarity you could give me. I'm so ignorant to this, but around the Attorney General being part of, I guess, compliance. Could you
Sure,
speak to why that was removed?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
On that last point, I was informed by Mr. Merrill and Mr. Jorgensen that that is already, that capability is already in existence and does not need to be included in this bill. As regard to green space, yes, Representative Grohowski did reach out to me before the public hearing about that. And my concern was that it may preclude some sites that perhaps may not have the ability, especially repurposing existing properties. So a good example is the Mercy Hospital in Portland, Maine. If we had that requirement for that property, I'm not sure it would have qualified, and that would have been a shame. So I absolutely, especially somebody who cares about making sure our children and families have access to clean and healthy environments and getting them outside. I really understood where she was coming from, but I think for this round of housing investment, there are choices that have to be made. This is, even with this large investment, we're not going to solve our crisis. It's just still shocking to me that that's the case. And so I just want to try to get the biggest bang for the buck for the most needy as quickly as possible.
The chair recognizes Representative Gear.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nice to see you, Representative Millette. I'm just curious as to the income levels as they were defined in this. I just wanted to see what the changes there were about.
Yeah, that made my head spin. That's the equivalent of special education rules and how the financing of housing accesses other tools and specifically the tax credits, et cetera. And again, after multiple an hour plus worth of conversation with Maine Housing, this is where we landed. We still think we get at what we're trying to achieve with these changes.
Great, thanks.
So are there any other questions from the committee for the bill sponsor? And would anyone like to hear from anyone from Maine State Housing on this proposed amendment?
I'm interested to hear from Maine Housing.
Great. So we have both Peter Merrill and Eric Jorgensen who are here today. If both of you could please turn on your cameras, unmute yourselves just in case you have a question from the committee. Let's see. There might be some connectivity issues here. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, I think Eric Jorgen is saying to me that, okay, there we go. And that's so Mr. Merrill and Mr. Jorgensen, if you could please introduce yourselves in any order. Mr. Merrill, you are not muted, so you go first.
Sorry, now I'm unmuted. Eric Jorgensen, Maine Housing. Thank you for having me here today.
And Peter Merrill also from Maine Housing. We're just a wall apart.
Great. The chair recognizes Representative Warren.
I'm curious if you have any insight or perspective to add on the energy versus electricity question that Representative Sylvester brought up.
And you are asking that of either or both of them, Representative Warren?
Yeah, if anyone has a perspective.
Thank you.
I don't believe that was one of the changes that we were involved in making. Or was it, Peter? I don't think so.
No, and I missed the question, so I'm sorry. Not your question. I missed the discussion earlier.
Oh, yeah. No, the question was just, there was a suggestion that the word energy be changed to electricity, and Representative just wanted to know if you had any thoughts about that. That's all.
Basically, we don't.
Okay. And Mr. Jorgensen, I know that you did provide a lot of answers to us in some questions that were asked. So would you care to just sort of walk us through any of those that you'd like to share with the committee, what your thoughts are on the amendment, what you could do with $100 million, anything like that?
Well, thank you very much. As I said I think that the purposes of my the stuff I sent to you was really to help you understand how a low-income housing tax credit project is financed. And then, of course, there was the question of what would we do with $100 million if someone just gave us $100 million. And I think I was able to answer both of those. There was also a question from Representative Sylvester, and I forget what it is, but it was the $100 million. Our answer to that was really that what we thought for us, the way that we would do that would be to plug it into our regular low-income housing tax credit pipeline and just run with it that way. The good news about the amendments you've done here is they do make these projects potentially qualify for the low-income housing tax credit, and they also do make them potentially qualify for Section 8, which are the two most important sort of tools you can use to generate subsidy. So but the real thing for us would be if we just had the $100 million without any strings attached to it, we just put it into our regular program. I mean, as it stands now, this program still is distinctly different from our other general program. So it would be a separate pot of money that people would apply for. But the good news is now with these amendments, it still could be, you could still use those other tools to help finance it. Peter, did I miss anything?
Representative Sylvester's question had to do with the possibility of partial financing, so that to the issue of whether or not a town could be the owner of the project. And the answer is that the town could be the general partner in a limited partnership. Limited partnership would be a for-profit corporation to take advantage of the tax credits, but the town could be, or a nonprofit, could be the general partner in the deal, and they would be the controlling, even though they wouldn't have the financial interest would be controlled by the limiteds, but they would be the controlling partner. And we see that Avesta, for instance, in our town, does that all the time.
Thank you, Mr. Merrill and Mr. Jorgensen. Are there any questions from the committee at this time? Chair recognizes Representative Drinkwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Jorgensen, Mr. Merrill. Reading the amendment, my concern is I'm in a rural area. And again, looking this over, it looks like if this is going to be scored, that an area like mine would be very low priority based upon the criteria for getting a project in your area. Am I reading this correctly?
To the extent that the requirement, I'm not seeing it immediately, but I believe it was needed to be proximate or in a town that has a need for affordable housing, near transportation hubs, cost effective. A rural area certainly could have an affordable housing need. I don't think that your town would be proximate to public transportation. So that might not help your town.
Thank you.
Representative Millette has an answer to that, I believe, as well.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to highlight that there's just one of the criteria that's 11B out of 8. So there are other places where a community could score very highly. That would then balance that one variable. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Drinkwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'd like to ask Representative Millette a question. As you know, when we went through this discussion, there was some concern about the project labor agreements. Was there any consideration on removing that from the amendment?
Thank you for that question, Representative Drinkwater. Absolutely. I definitely took to heart the feedback. But, I think I'm going to disagree with the conclusions that were put forth by those who are in opposition. I believe that the folks that testified in support also provided, I think, compelling evidence that PLAs would not derail projects and don't result in extreme increases in costs. So I know that's not the answer you were hoping for. And obviously by the amendment, you saw that I did not remove them, but I did give it consideration.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Warren.
I'm wondering, Representative Millett, would you know if there's someone here who could speak to the energy versus electricity question?
Yeah, I don't believe there's somebody in attendance, and I did text the individual who has been writing an answer this whole time, and I encourage the individual to not submit a dissertation that we're in the middle of a public hearing. So if you can give me just a few more minutes, I'll raise my hand when I have an answer.
Great.
Thank you.
I do not see any other hands raised. It certainly sounds like we might get some more information on Representative Ward's question.
Okay, I've got it.
Okay, well, then in that case, go for it.
All right, and I am literally reading the text, so these are not my words. Electricity is a limiting term versus energy. Energy could include use of biomass production, which could in certain circumstances for a specific project make sense given the resources of the state. The layering of a third-party sustainability certification prevents any outlier renewable energy production system that does not perform within environmental standards intended in the bill. Short answer, the certifications do the most work here.
Thank you very much, Representative Millett, for that answer. Representative Warren, are you good with at least getting an answer?
Yes, yeah, it gives me some more context. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Peter Merrill, may I ask a question, a clarifying question? At the risk of reversing roles?
You may proceed, Mr. Merrill.
A question for the senator. We had been reading the bill to require for the energy stuff, to require that the projects be built to those standards, but not that they necessarily receive the certifications. That's it's a kind of an insider distinction, but it's one that costs a fair amount of money and one that we get asked about a lot. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Mr. Merrill. You are asking that of Representative Millett, the bill sponsor?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Merrill, you're correct. The bill as written does not specify certification, but rather it's designed to meet or exceed the requirements.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the committee for anyone?
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. I go with the flow, Mr. Merrill. We go with the flow around here. And, these are important discussions to have because we're doing all sorts of important work, and clarity is the best way forward. Does the committee have a position on what to do about LD 1656? The chair recognizes Chairman Sylvester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would make a motion not to pass as amended.
I believe with the static, I heard that you are making a motion ought to pass as amended with the amendment presented by the bill sponsor. Is that correct, sir?
That is absolutely correct, Mr. Chair.
Moved ought to pass as amended. Is there a second? Is that you, Representative Cuddy, seconding his motion? And Representative Cuddy, I recognize you to speak if you want to say something as well.
I was actually raising my hand to make the motion that Chair Sylvester made. So I'm happy to second that motion.
Perfect. Is there any discussion of the motion from the committee? Is the committee ready for the question? Ms. Thompson, please call the roll.
Senator Hickman.
Yay.
Hickman, yay. Senator Guerin.
No.
Guerin, no. Senator Miramont.
Yay.
Miramont, yay. Representative Sylvester.
Yay.
Sylvester, yay. Representative Bradstreet.
No.
Bradstreet, no. Representative Cuddy.
Yes.
Cuddy, yes. Representative Drinkwater.
Nay.
Drinkwater, nay. Representative Gear.
Yes.
Gear, yes. Representative Morris.
No.
Morris, no. Representative Pebworth.
Yes.
Pebworth, yes. Representative Prescott is absent. Representative Rader.
Representative Rader.
Yes.
Rader, yes. And Representative Warren.
Yes.
Warren, yes. That is 8-4 with 1 absent.
8 members voting the affirmative, 4 in the negative with 1 absent. The motion prevails. Minority report?
Ought not to pass.
Ought not to pass, it is. And with that, I will close the work session on LD 1656. And I also want to ask the committee if anyone has heard from the good Representative Prescott. Has anyone heard from him?
I texted him, but I have not heard back. Texted him a couple hours ago.
Okay. I suggest then that we all keep him in our thoughts, since I don't believe that he's responded to any of us, which probably means something is not good. So in that regard, I ask that we hold him up in prayer. That's all I can say. And so let me look to the participant list to see if we have any other bill sponsors here today. So far, we do not. So in that case, we're going to take up LD 1644, Senator Miramont's bill, an act to improve the disability retirement program of the Maine Public Employees Retirement System. And I know that that's a retirement bill, so I probably should have asked. Okay, great. I was like, I probably should have checked to see first if you were here. Thank you, Ms. McCarthy-Reed. Since you are our analyst on this matter, can you please present the bill analysis? Thank you.
I sure can. Okay, so as Senator Hickman said, this is an act to improve the disability retirement program of the Maine Public Employees Retirement System. It makes a number of changes to amend the laws relating to the process under which members make application to the retirement system for disability retirement, and also makes some other changes relating to the structure of Maine PERS. One of the primary changes is that the bill repeals the laws providing for a medical board and permits the executive director of the retirement system to contract with a medical review service provider. It also clarifies and makes changes to the statute to provide that the hearing officers in these matters are not employees of the board of trustees of the retirement system, but independent contractors that serve as neutral and independent decision makers. It modifies the definition of what is meant to be disabled for purposes of disability retirement in the law, and changes, and that is by changing one element to qualify for disability retirement from, and this is a quote from the current law, impossible to perform the duties of the member's employment position, to unable to perform the essential function of the member's employment position with reasonable accommodation. It provides that adverse decisions by hearing officers that are appealed to the court must be given de novo review. It restructures the application process, so giving the executive director the authority to grant benefits based on a review of medical records and the member's healthcare provider's views. It authorizes the executive director to obtain opinions and recommendations from the medical review service provider, and provides that the executive director may not deny an application for disability retirement benefits without first obtaining an independent medical examination unless that is waived by the member. It also provides that when reviewing medical evidence and making a determination of disability, the The board, the executive director, and hearing officers must primarily consider medical opinions included in the record and whether those opinions are supported by sound medical evidence and consistent with other medical evidence in the record. The bill also provides that attorney's fees up to a maximum of $12,000 must be paid by the retirement system for a member who appeals the denial of disability benefits and who is subsequently awarded those benefits. And then there are two reporting provisions in the bill. One, it requires the retirement system to report to the committee with jurisdiction over retirement matters on the experience of the retirement system and its members under the changes made by the bill. And then secondly, it would require the retirement system to form a stakeholder group and report back to the committee with jurisdiction over retirement matters on implementing a mandatory long-term disability insurance coverage program. I think as you heard at the public hearing from Senator Miramont and others, this is an updated version of a bill that was considered in the 129th legislature by the Labor and Housing Committee. That was LD 1978. This language is really substantially similar, but updated in a few different ways by further discussions among the stakeholders, including proponents, attorneys representing members in disability retirement cases, employee representatives like the Maine Education Association and others, and the retirement system. LD 1978 was reported out of the Labor and Housing Committee last session with a divided report, but the bill was not taken up in any special session before termination of the 129th legislature. While you didn't have any testimony submitted in opposition to the bill, I did want to note that there was some written testimony submitted in support by an individual who is a family caregiver for someone who is a current disability retirement beneficiary. And her written testimony did suggest that the committee consider some additional amendments to the bill, which I've outlined, summarized for you below. I'm happy to go over those more specifically if that's something the committee is interested in. And then two other things I wanted to just note quickly, that the provisions that I mentioned that require reporting back by the retirement system, both on the experience with the changes made in the bill to the process for disability retirement and the development of a plan for implementing mandatory long-term disability insurance coverage. Those report backs are both due in January of 2023, I think, to allow the time to report and sort of the development of some experience with applications for disability retirement under these new provisions. So I did want to note that that will be a report that will be made to the next legislature, the 131st legislature. So it wouldn't be a report back coming to this current committee. I just wanted to make you aware of that. And then the second thing is that the bill as drafted applies the changes prospectively only. So the changes to the process and to the disability retirement applications apply to applications that would be filed on or after the effective date of the bill. So it would not apply to any pending applications before the retirement system for disability retirement or any sort of cases that are ongoing through the system. So I wanted to make you aware of that as well. And we don't yet have any fiscal information on this proposal. I'll stop there, but I did also want to note that Representative Drinkwater had asked for some information from the retirement system, sort of comparing the system for disability under Social Security with the retirement systems process, and that information was emailed to you this morning. It was provided by Mr. Colleran of the retirement system, who I believe is in your meeting, and he could answer any questions about that provision. And then if you also have any additional technical questions about the proposed changes in LD 1644, he's also made himself available to answer those questions. I note you also have other representatives of the various stakeholder groups that worked on developing this proposed bill with Senator Miramont.
Thank you, Ms. McCarthy-Reed, for your thorough analysis. Are there any questions at this time? for our analyst. Chair recognizes Representative Drinkwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mine was to bring Mr. Colleran forward, and perhaps we could hear from his analysis. And then I would have a question when he's done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. Colleran, please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Colleran. I'm Chief Deputy Executive Director and General Counsel from Maine PERS.
Quiet.
Representative Drinkwater had asked the public hearing for information comparing Maine PERS disability retirement with Social Security disability insurance. And we provided a two-page summary of the similarities and differences between the programs. The most important differences are that there's different standards, that Maine PERS disability retirement is for permanent disabilities. Social Security disability insurance is for disabilities expected to last at least 1 year. And so there's not that permanence requirement. And of course, the population served by Maine PERS disability retirement is to a large extent teachers and state employees and some local governmental workers, whereas SSDI covers the entire working population essentially. So it's a different group covered. Both systems have an analogous process where an application is reviewed by staff members who have medical professionals who review records and provide advice to those staff members. SSDI often uses, in majority of cases, an outside in-person medical review to fill in gaps or to provide additional information. That is not something Maine PERS has historically done. We've done it on occasion, but it's not a regular feature. The LD 1644 would require that increased use of independent medical examinations. As a permanent system, Maine PERS, most people who go on Maine PERS disability retirement, almost everybody who does stays on it. Very low rate of people leaving that benefit program. It's also a low rate leaving SSDI, but it's a larger rate than we have for Maine PERS disability retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Colleran. Does that satisfy your question? Representative Drinkwater has one. You are recognized, sir. You are on mute, Representative Drinkwater.
Oh, wow. See how easy that can happen?
Yep.
Thank you. In the original testimony, you stated that you're making changes to the program and you continue to make improvements. We just saw the analysis of the summary of the proposed bill, and there was quite a few changes in there. Have you gone through those 9 proposed changes, and are you working towards any of those, or would you totally disregard some of those?
I assume, Representative, you're talking about the request and suggestions by Sue Howes, who is one of the people who submitted written testimony. We've looked at those. Some of those are things that we have no opposition to and will certainly consider. Some of them we do not think are appropriate changes. One of the suggestions is to have Maine PERS pay attorney's fees for all appeals, whether they're disability retirement appeals or other types of appeals. That is not something that we are looking at or would support. I'm not aware of any other agency that in Maine government that has that sort of structure. And the testimony this committee heard in the last legislature was directed towards dissatisfaction with disability retirement decisions, and there's just not the same basis for making changes outside of that context. We'll certainly look at the payment of interest. And that's a complicated question, but it's a good suggestion, and we'll look at that. And if that makes sense, we'll incorporate that into our process. Allow a member to have anyone of their choice attend an IME. We have no objection to that. The LD 1644 as written could be interpreted that way, but that's something we would not have any objection to. Requiring all Maine PERS appeals to be reviewed de novo, like the attorney's fees provision, we would not be in support of that. That would be unprecedented among Maine state agencies, and the committee hasn't heard testimony to support making that change. And if it was to be considered, I would suggest hearing from the Attorney General's office on that because they represent Maine PERS on appeals to courts. Require the medical service provider selected by Maine PERS to be the same specialty as the member's healthcare provider. That's not necessarily a good idea, and may be unnecessary now that we've switched away from the medical board to using the University of Massachusetts Medical School as a medical reviewer. That has given us a much wider array of specialties to draw from for medical reviews. So that's why this change may not be necessary. And it's also not necessarily a good idea because if the healthcare provider was a generalist that treated the member, having a specialist do the review may be and often is appropriate. Specify that the Maine PERS medical record evaluator may not offer a diagnosis not provided by the providers. Again, we don't believe that would be a good idea. And we've had several instances where we've granted disability retirement benefits on a diagnosis found by our reviewers that the members' providers had not identified. And we've had situations where our medical reviewers have identified a diagnosis that the members' providers had not diagnosed, and then that member was able to get treatment for a diagnosis that they didn't realize they had. So don't believe that would be a good idea. And finally, the records suggestion, we already do make available all the members' records upon request, and we're subject to freedom of access law, so we do provide all non-public information requested by anybody.
Thank you, Mr. Colleran, for your thorough responses. Representative Drinkwater, are you all set?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you very much for that analysis.
And Representative Drinkwater, did you, were you inquiring because you wanted to maybe include some of those suggestions in this amendment, or you just were curious?
Well, you know, they are the experts and they're the ones that are actually in the trenches doing all the work. And to me, their suggestions carry a lot of weight. And I appreciated what he had to say going through those one by one.
Thank you. Senator Mirmont, were you considering any of these amendments at all?
I was, oh, definitely. And I like the analysis. I would like to include the ones that were already something that the system could agree with. And I can see some sense in the ones that they disagree with, as well as the one that it's already in place. But I don't want to exclude. Before I was talking about possibly excluding things that have been done, but there's no reason for that. It almost gives the department something to just check off right away. Prove they've done it. Now we just need to see the results of it. So I want the bill to go forward. And with those mentioned, if Ms. McCarthy-Reed was taking notes there, to add Ms. Howe's suggestions, excluding the 3, I believe, that would not work or did not need to be in there per Mr. Colleran. And that be acceptable if that's okay with the committee as an amendment.
You would be proposing that when we get to a motion that we would add the provisions that were agreeable to Mr. Colleran, but no other ones. Is that correct?
I would like to hear from anybody else too. This committee's supposed to weigh in on this, and where Representative Sylvester was quite involved last year helping me to understand labor law when I was not on this committee. I want to hear from him in this discussion, please, because he may have another perspective that I missed as a newbie.
Not a problem. We will certainly open it up to discussion at any point in time. Now is a great time, unless anyone has any more direct questions for Mr. Colleran or Ms. McCarthy-Reed. Chair recognizes Chairman Sylvester.
Thank you. I'm wondering if Ms. McCarthy-Reed could summarize the amendments of Mr. Colleran's suggestions as she understands them. That would be helpful, I think, in turn, because it was sort of a long discussion, and I want to make sure we're not missing.
That is a direct question.
Sure. Based on the notes that I was taking, with regard to the payment of interest, that was something that they indicated an interest in looking at. I'm not sure if that means that they support that being included in the bill, but it was something that they would consider. I also believe that they had.
Ms. McCarthy-Reed, let's just take it one thing at a time, if you don't mind. Mr. Colleran, can you please
Oh, sure.
respond to that? Thank you. No, I just want to keep it straightforward here. So, Mr. Colleran, please respond.
Well, I would agree with Ms. McCarthy-Reed that that's something we're interested in looking at, but at this point, it's a complicated subject, and I prefer it not be put in the legislation until we have a chance to study it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Continue. Thank you.
So if that's the case, then I think there was might only be one thing that they were okay with including in the legislation, which was to clarify that a member could have anyone of their choice present at the independent medical examination. And then the second one was but I think with regard to the disclosure of what's in the members' files, based on what Mr. Colleran said, I believe he said that that's already available to the member upon request. All of the public information that would be available to the member.
And the member gets also non-public information about the member. And I read Ms. Howe's testimony. I went look back at the specific complaints she made about the documents she received, and she received everything we had. And apparently she expected we would have more, but this was a decision reviewing the continued disability of her husband, and it was not a difficult decision to make that he was still disabled, and so there wasn't a lot of documentation to provide.
Chair recognizes Chairman Sylvester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As regards Senator Maramont's questions, I've been through this. I've looked at this, the new amendments and all the pieces that you put in this. It seems to me to make a lot of sense to fill in the gaps of what was done, or at least, you know more probably about what was done between now and this time, but in terms of my understanding of where we are in this present time and where I think you're trying to go, this makes sense to me. So I'm not seeing any glaring errors. Or holes that are going unfilled, having gone back and looked at the testimony. And so I believe that this is a good place to land. If you are satisfied, Senator.
I am, and I had to agree with Mr. Colleran that if the review board with this new system that's set up, it can go to the specialists within its group that it needs to understand a particular person's disability well. That's one of the things they promised in talking to them. They also, if they do discover from that pool that they are working from something that the member has that wasn't uncovered, that would be a benefit. So I can't see prohibiting that either. So that's why, that's why I agree with you, and I mixed on a couple of the suggestions. I know she has been working on this forever. She lives it with so much pain and struggle. I mean, I just am so impressed with those folks who came and testified last year. And you were absolutely right. We couldn't drag them in again. That would just be cruel. But she has been in this, and she still contacts me constantly and thinks of new ideas. But I think we can move ahead, as you said, for now.
And Mr. Chair?
You may proceed.
I would make a motion ought to pass as amended, with the one motion of being able to have somebody in of your choice.
It's been moved ought to pass as amended by Chairman Sylvester. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Gear. That's the first hand I saw. Moved by Chairman Sylvester, seconded by Representative Gear. Chair recognizes Representative Bradstreet.
Yes, thank you. I guess this is the proper place for discussion then. In the testimony, this is a little bit a different type of portion of the bill. During the testimony, Mr. Conley testified that under Social Security, there's a $5,500 limit on attorney's fees on appeal, and the bill calls for $12,000. I'm just wondering what is refresh my memory about what the reasoning is behind that.
And Representative Bradstreet, who are you asking that of?
That's for anybody who would answer. Perhaps Senator Marmont would direct me in the right direction.
Yes. So there's a question from Representative Bradstreet about a provision in the bill. Senator Mearmont, would you care to answer?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And that came up because of what was formerly going on that brought so many people with so many horror stories. It was as if they'd taken the model from the big insurance companies, deny and wait them out. And it was cruel at times. So if somebody could even last through the process as it existed, I want to give a little credit that there's been movement. If they could last long enough and they survived all of the stuff through appeal, they were out a bunch of money that most of them couldn't even live at that point because they've been denied a disability payment and they'd lost their income. So it just felt like if they have been hanging in there against this system, they deserve to at least get paid because they'd proven that they were right from the start and the system was treating them badly.
Representative Bradstreet is.
Yeah, this is attorney's fees I'm talking about here. I'm just wondering why $12,000. It must be, maybe that's about what the average cost was. I'm not sure.
That was a guess based on the length of time in appealing. Yes.
Okay.
And it could be more. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Chair recognizes Representative Rader.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to call everyone's attention to testimony that was submitted by Randy Bodge. He emailed me asking to look over his testimony. He was supposed to testify in person, but could not. So I just wanted to remind folks that there is additional testimony that was submitted by people. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Rader, for that. Any other discussion about the motion? Chair recognizes Representative Drinkwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So let me see if I understand this. If this is to go through, this will not help anybody that's currently in the process of trying to settle. Am I reading what this analysis correctly? This will help people that have not yet made a claim, but the people that have made a claim, it will not affect them at all?
That's correct. The application of the legislation applies prospectively, which is consistent with how most other legislation that's enacted by the legislature operates. So it applies to the specific changes in LD 1644 would apply to applications for disability retirement that are filed on or after the effective date of the legislation, which as it's drafted, it's not drafted as an emergency. So it would be 90 days after adjournment of the legislative session.
And just a quick follow-up. We have a stakeholders group that's coming out with a report in next January. Is that true?
The reports are due January of 2023 as the bill is drafted.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator Mearmont.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just add that the department did step in at the point of recognizing that there were some injustices. The director stepped in and dealt with the most egregious cases. They were looking at ones that needed to be reviewed differently. I feel like I don't have all the information and I'll keep gathering it, but I wasn't trying to make a retroactive bill. But I felt like they made a real effort to take care of those folks who had identified the problem, and they made some changes, and this feels like the right way to do it. It won't make everybody whole. There's some just horrible stories, but that's what we did in this case.
Chair recognizes Representative Bradstreet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to know if we could do a corner caucus at some point before we vote.
Yes, sir, we may.
Thank you.
Any other questions that we would like to see addressed before the corner caucus? Seeing none, then we will go to a corner caucus. I see that Senator Baldacci has joined us. We will take up LD 1580 after we finish this bill. So if we could go to our breakout rooms for 5 minutes or less, that would be great. Thank you.
The breakout rooms are still open, so you guys just have to click the little button on the bottom.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
You're welcome.
Alyssa, I know as a host, I have to do something special and I can't remember what it was.
We are back.
Mr. Chair, you're muted, sir.
See how that works. We are all back at the same time, is what I said. Is there any more discussion of this motion ought to pass as amended on LD 1644? The chair recognizes Representative Drinkwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It took me a second to find my digital hand over here. Mr. Chair, I absolutely agree with the concept of this bill, that there are people out there that absolutely need help. But the problem here is this bill is not going to help them. It's going to help future claims, but it's not going to be retroactive. Maine Piers is willing to make changes, maybe not fast enough for some members of the committee, but they are making changes. And I think that the stakeholders report coming back would be a great help for us to make better decisions. So therefore, Mr. Chair, I won't be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Representative Drinkwater. Would you support the motion if it was retroactive? I'm just curious. I'm not saying that it will be or should be, but you brought it up, so I thought I'd ask.
Well, thanks for asking, but that would be a question to Maine Piers if it could be retroactive. Can we tell them to make it retroactive and they will do it?
Well, we can tell them to do anything we want.
And then we'd have to look at the fiscal cost.
I was just curious if that was the only sticking point that you had. The chair recognizes Chairman Sylvester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then yes, Representative Drinkwater, they would have to go back over every single person who could possibly have filed a disability claim that would have, how far back are we going retroactive? Are we looking only at open cases or cases that have been closed before? And those are the sorts of things that, that end up with a bill circling the drain and, and ended up in it. So that's why on these retirement bills, as much as I always want to go back and fix everybody, had to eat a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Bitter pills, to make it right for people going forward, rather than to make sure that, we at least started clean at one point. And that's how these retirement bills just seem to go. And it's unfortunate. And hopefully when we move towards paying our bills here on the unfunded liability, we'll be able to fix some of these things going backwards. Thank you.
Any other discussion of the motion ought to pass as amended? Committee ready for the question? Ms. Thompson, please call the roll.
Senator Hickman. Hickman, yay. Senator Guerin.
No.
Guerin, no. Senator Miramont.
Yes.
Miramont, yes. Representative Sylvester.
Yes.
Sylvester, yes. Representative Bradstreet.
No.
Bradstreet, no. Representative Cuddy.
Yes.
Cuddy, yes. Representative Drinkwater.
Nay.
Drinkwater, nay. Representative Gear.
Yes.
Gear, yes. Representative Morris.
No.
Morris, no. Representative Pebworth.
Yes.
Pebworth, yes. Representative Prescott is absent. Representative Rader.
Yes.
Rader, yes. And Representative Warren.
Yes.
Warren, yes. It's 8-4 with one absent.
8 members voting in the affirmative, 4 in the negative with 1 absent. The motion prevails. Minority report.
Ought not to pass.
Ought not to pass it is. I will close the work session on LD 1444. I will now open the work session on LD 1580, an act to provide protections for mobile home park residents, presented by Senator Joseph Baldacci of Penobscot. Mr. Langland, please present the bill analysis. This was tabled, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's correct. So do we have an amendment to consider?
I am not aware of one.
Okay, great. So with that, I will ask Senator Baldacci. I know that Representative Bradstreet was absolutely working with one of the opponents of this bill. And Senator Baldacci, did you have anything else you wanted to add since we did table this bill until today? Senator Baldacci, you are on mute. let's get you to unmute. There we go. I just remuted him.
Well, first I want to thank Senator Hickman and Representative Sylvester and the committee for allowing me to come back. There's a lot to digest in this bill, and it coming in late in the session because of just the way things are and the compressed time frame that we have. I would probably ask if the committee would consider making this into a bill to create a stakeholder group that we could hold, because I think we need to, do some surveying of opinions. I think the bill, the bill is an important bill. It needs some time, I think, to be worked on in terms of the issues and developing the issues further. We have limited time in this session. I don't know if the committee would consider either creating a stakeholder group that could report back to the committee next year that would look at the issue, or carrying the bill over to the next session. And in the interim, I would try to pull together people and work on any refinements that need to be happening. I think the bottom line is that current Maine law has very few protections like this, and I think it's important that mobile home park residents have a voice in how their community is run. So that's all I can offer to the committee today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator Baldacci. Chair recognizes Representative Bradstreet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator, for your comments. Appreciate those. Yes, I have been in contact with Sarah Nichols from the Bangor City Council, Manufactured Housing Board, the state administrative agency, and whether we carry it over or do a stakeholders group, I think is the way to go. I'm not sure. I guess if we carry it over, possibly we'd need a stakeholders group to get to come up with a final resolution to present to the committee. So I'm not sure if you need that in the form of a motion. I don't have a composition of the committee ready, or a special commission ready. So perhaps if we could carry it over, that would be the way to do it. And I would be open to suggestions as to how to proceed over the summer.
Thank you, Representative. Chair recognizes Chairman Sylvester. You are on mute, sir. It's contagious.
I know it. I have a question for Mr. Langley. Do we oversee this board, this Manufactured Home Association board? Does that come under our purview? Who committee is this group meet with? Is this a state committee? Is it? I mean,
I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I should have also said before I yielded the floor that Robert Leclerc, who's actually on the board, is here. And so he would be the best person to answer that question.
Then I wonder, Mr. Chair, if we might be able to bring him forward.
I would welcome expertise on this matter. So if Mr. Leclerc, is that the Robert Leclerc, if you could please turn on your microphone and your camera, and in the meanwhile, Representative Cuddy took his hand back down. So there we are. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Leclerc. I am the Executive Director of the Manufactured Housing Program for the state. The Manufactured Housing Board is 9 members. They represent manufacturers, dealers, installers, mechanics, and manufactured housing communities. We have rulemaking authority. We have Title 10, Chapter 951. Title 10, Chapter 953 is what the tenant landlord law is. We do not enforce that. That is one for civil litigation. But manufactured housing communities is a big part of our job.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Bob Leclerc? Chair recognizes Chairman Sylvester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Leclerc, what department do you live in? I mean, do you live in the are you with Maine State Housing? Are you with HHS? Like
Minnesota. Professional and financial regulations.
Ah, okay. All right. So I guess my question is if we wrote you a letter asking you to put together such a stakeholder group to work with Senator Baldacci and interested parties to come up with legislation for the next session, is that something that you would be willing to do?
I would be more than willing to help in any way I can. I would surely have to run it by Commissioner Head, who is my supervisor.
So I think that, Mr. Chair, what I would like to propose to Senator Baldacci is that we write both Mr. Leclerc and Director Head to ask them to put together such a group, but that at such time that they came up with legislation that they're ready, that's ready for prime time to move forward, that I would be I have a bill I'd be happy to send over to Senator Baldacci if he needed one, or I'd be happy to testify at the Legislative Council about the need for moving a bill forward. But at this time, and I want to hear from the good senator first, I would be tempted to move this bill ought not to pass and to move towards coming to a better resolution. So.
Well, yeah, I thank you, Chairman Sylvester. I will go to, the chair recognizes Representative Warren first because her hand was up.
I can wait.
Okay, great. Chair recognizes Senator Baldacci to help answer the question that Chairman Sylvester has put in front of us.
So, hold on for a second. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
So professional financial regulation comes under state and local government, which I happen to be the chair of. So, you know, I don't know where you want to put it, but I do think we need to have a stakeholder group. It has to represent tenants' interests. It has to have municipality input. I think that Mr. Leclerc just told us that they don't handle landlord-tenant matters. So I wouldn't want, so I mean, they should definitely provide us input, but they're not doing landlord-tenant type issues. So I want to make sure this is a broad enough group. As far as whatever the committee wants to do is fine. I do think that's having either making the bill into a directive to have a stakeholder group and report back, and making sure the composition of the stakeholder group is broad enough, that would be good. I just want to I think the Manufactured Housing Board does have a role in this discussion, but I think as they've said, they aren't part of the landlord tenant process for obvious reasons.
Yes, I appreciate that. So I suggest, or for consideration, Chairman Sylvester and committee, is that we could easily turn this bill into a resolve and direct it to form a stakeholder group to meet in the interim and to bring back recommendations for us to report out a bill the second regular session of the 130th legislature, as we do with so many other bills where we don't want to necessarily take an action before we know what action it is we want to take. That way we won't be voting to carry the bill over. The resolve will be the force of the law. It will require the stakeholder group to meet in the terms of whatever we put in it. And then the bill sponsor would still have an opportunity to have a bill reported out by this committee next session. Is that something that, Chairman Sylvester, I will call on you, would you consider something like that instead of just an outright ought not to pass in a letter?
I think that would be fine. I think that also, the other, as you were talking, the other suggestion that came to me is we could re-refer it back over to state and local government if the good senator wanted to have it over there. But because I don't know if we, I mean, I'm really trying to figure out where the jurisdiction is on this. Like what department does this live in? who is looking at these tenant rights and in manufactured homes. And so that's my number one question. And I was hoping that it was this board. And I do have another question for Mr. Leclerc, which maybe will be clarifying. Your inspectors, sir, what do they inspect? And is it just a sort of a checklist? Like the inspectors of hospitals that they go through and they just make sure that this and this, so it's all done?
We do inspections of the entire infrastructure of the community. We cite violations. We require that the park owner, operator, certify the corrections have been fixed. If it's an electrical issue, we require a master electrician to certify that it's been fixed. So we do an average of 150 to 200 communities per year. We do an inspection. Keep in mind, some of them 300 sites, 250 sites. So we do a thorough inspection. A lot of the larger parks, it takes us 2 days in there to inspect everything. Did that answer your question?
It did. Mr. Chair, I'll roll with whatever you think. I'm not sure who we're directing to do this. That's my only question.
So I think that Mr. Langland can correct me if I'm wrong, but landlord-tenant relations used to be overseen by the Veterans and Legal Affairs Committee. And I do not believe that is the case any longer. I think that landlord-tenant relations are overseen by this committee. I also am not sure that professional regulations are overseen by state and local government. I thought that might be the IDEA committee, but I'll again let that go out into the atmosphere. Senator Baldacci probably knows better the jurisdiction of his own committee. And with that, I will recognize Representative Cuddy.
Yeah, I was going to mention that I know when I bring licensing bills, they go before IDEA, and this is the idea of licensing the parks. I'm looking at, I think I'm sharing a little bit of Chair Sylvester's uncertainty about where this is and where it needs to be, because I think if you think of labor and housing, the name of our committee, this is housing, and it is something that we certainly, I think, should have a voice in. But I was a little surprised when we got the bill the first time. I realized I had zero experience with it and zero idea of it. So it kind of threw me for a loop a little bit in terms of trying to come up with a good set of solutions around it. So I guess the place I am now is, if we're going to move forward with this vehicle and we're going to create this group through this vehicle, where then does the report go? Are they coming back to us because it's a housing issue, or are they going to go elsewhere? That's what I'm trying to get through my head right now, I guess.
The bill title is an act to provide protections for mobile home park residents. So we're dealing with people who dwell and need to be protected according to the bill sponsors a proposal. So Mr. Langland?
Yeah, I was going to say, I believe that this might have actually been up for reference in the IDEA committee, but then given the substance of the bill, I think that, I don't know if that committee voted or took an action to re-refer it to us, but we do, as Senator Hickman said, have jurisdiction over landlord-tenant issues. So my assumption is that is why it is in this committee.
Yeah.
The other thing I would add too is, maybe this will enlighten your discussions, maybe not. If you go the route of sort of creating a resolve, you could specify particular interest groups that the Manufactured Housing Board should work with in developing any recommendations for legislation. So you could say that they must work with legal professionals who have experience representing tenants or something like that. So you can be as sort of prescriptive as you'd like if you do decide to go that direction.
Thank you, Mr. Langland. Chair recognizes Representative Board.
I just wanted to bring in that there's a few different things that have to, in this bill, that seem to have to do with efficiency standards and things around electrical use. And I know that there are a couple strategies of the Maine Climate Council that concern bringing in homes after 1976 to get certain funding around their weatherization programs and updating certain homes. So it seems like there could be as well work that's at some point soon going to begin to be done to bring in main housing or bring in efficiency main to have a more regulatory role. So I'm just also wondering, like, what are the places where there may be ongoing work? And it seems like that was part of the intention of this bill. So again, that's my wonder here. If they hadn't previously, like the Maine Climate Council does say, that they hadn't previously been involved in that work and now are going to be, and it seems like there could be a lot of money and work around that. So I would just want maybe them to be part of if we're going to make this resolve, potentially to have those folks be part of this as well if they aren't already.
Chair recognizes Representative Bradstreet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just want to remind the committee that this has to do with the communities rather than the homes already have, the new homes already have energy standards that they have to comply with at a national level. And I also want to point out that the Manufactured Housing Board does consist of more than industry people. There are several tenants or occupants of manufactured homes are on that board. There's a licensed code enforcement officer and an engineer too. So it is a kind of a board with various skills and expertise levels. So, and I agree. I think maybe resolve is the way to go. Just how to word that and make sure the proper groups are included is key, I believe. So I would like to see it pursue in that avenue.
Thank you, Representative Bradstreet. Given that we have another 1 day of work left, we can do two things. We can wait for language if we go out with a resolve, which means we table the bill today and let Representative Bradstreet work with bill sponsor to come up with the correct composition of the board, taking into consideration anything that has been said and will be said. Or we could just vote to do that today and allow that language to be written, and we can come back and review it for language review. That will be the will of the committee. That'd actually be my preference because it's a resolve. And so we're not actually putting anything into statute. So I'm not really worried about all the language being right. It would just be that the folks who want to put that stakeholder group together, sit down and meet and talk about what should be in that language. Chair recognizes Representative Geer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just have a clarifying question. I'm just trying to make sure I understand what is included under the auspices of the Manufactured Housing Board. Are we talking about mobile homes and what we might think of traditionally in that category, and then also the modular manufactured housing we see a lot in our little retirement communities and that sort of thing?
Does anyone have an answer to that question, Mr. LeClaire?
Yes, I do. Manufactured Housing Board regulates modular homes as well as the federal HUD homes.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Chairman Sylvester.
So I'm looking through the Pine Tree Legal's tenants' rights manual, which is pretty exhaustive. And there's a long section on what they are calling mobile homes and not manufactured homes. But literally it gives you no state resource to call to make a complaint as a tenant. And so, so I am happy to make a motion for a resolve to put together a stakeholder group. And what I would like to see is between now and Friday or whenever it is we look at language review to know if there is any state entity that a person can call if they're a tenant or they're a landlord to get state help. And that, I think, is the question we've been asking since the very first bit of testimony. Who do they call? And it seems in this legal guide that tells you to call your municipality and not the state anywhere that I can see. So, so that might be one of the problems, Senator.
Thank you.
we end up trying to solve here.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to have the language ready by Friday. If we vote this out today, it will come when it comes. We in order to finish our work, we're really talking about voting bills out, but then of course we will all be available for the whatever form the language reviews will take when the language is finally ready, whether that's by email, if we're back in our seats, notes on our table. I mean, we'll figure the language part out, but I do believe we are in a good position to make a motion and vote out a resolve to put together a stakeholder group that will report back to this committee, oh, I don't know, January 15th or February 15th of 2022, so that we have time to report out legislation that could solve all of these problems, so long as the stakeholder group is going to be equipped with doing that. So if that is your motion, Representative.
So moved.
Lester, is there a second? Seconded by Representative Warren. Any discussion on the motion? Committee is ready for the Chair recognizes Representative Cuddy.
I know that we're not super worried about the language now, but I would much like to see the February date. We will have, I think, plenty of time for ourselves to work the bill and move that through if it's February, but I'd like to see the group given the extra month so that they can do their work, because really moving their work is important.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Senator Guerin.
I'd like to ask for a 5-minute or maybe even 3-minute caucus.
3 minutes it is.
Thank you.
You know how to get to your room. We'll be back, gentlemen and ladies. Ladies and gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Both chairmen, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
I think we're back in 1.5 minutes, which is pretty impressive, but we're here.
Senator Guerin, I hope you had a chance to enjoy some of the nice sunny weather.
Well, yesterday we had a nice day trip. It was our 40th wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations. That's
so
great.
We went and walked the beach and went out to dinner and enjoyed the warm weather.
Did you go to Bar Harbor or?
We actually went down to York Beach, a place that
it's nice.
had stopped over in York Beach on our honeymoon on our way to the airport in Boston. So that was kind of fun to go back there and talk about when we were basically children.
Yeah.
We thought we were all grown
that
up.
sounds very
How
nice.
that is.
All right.
And on
Happy
Saturday we worked most of the day, but the days are so long that when we were done at Flags, we went down to Bar Harbor and went hiking. So how about you? You been out at all?
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, we went down to Bar Harbor on Saturday with one of our daughters, so we had a good time just walking around. Beach though late in the summer. That's our plan. It's a nice area.
Oh, so nice. Astaku Gardens are really beautiful right now with all the azaleas. We went there. So it was nice.
The host has muted everyone. Oh, I guess I could figure out how to unmute myself. We are back. We are discussing the motion ought to pass as amended on LD 1580 to turn it into a resolve to direct a group of stakeholders yet to be determined to report back to us February 15th of 2022. on what to do to protect residents of mobile home parks and others. Is there any more discussion on this motion? Committee ready for the question? Ms. Thompson, please call the roll.
Senator Hickman. Hickman, yay. Senator Guerin.
Yes.
Guerin, yes. Senator Miramont.
Yes.
Miramont, yes. Representative Sylvester.
You're muted, Mike.
He's frozen. We'll come back to him.
Representative Bradstreet.
Yes.
Bradstreet, yes. Representative Cuddy.
Yes.
Cuddy, yes. Representative Drinkwater.
Yay.
Drinkwater, yay. Representative Gear.
Hello.
Yes.
Gear, yes. Representative Sylvester.
Yes.
Sylvester, yes. Representative Morris.
Yes.
Morris, yes. Representative Pebworth.
Yes.
Pebworth, yes. Representative Prescott is absent. Representative Rader.
Yes.
Rader, yes. And Representative Warren.
Yes.
Warren, yes. That is unanimous of those present.
All those present voting in the affirmative, the motion prevails.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I look forward. I'll reach out to Representative Bradstreet and others, and we'll get back. Appreciate all these attention to this matter. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank
you very much
for coming together on this unanimous report for the day.
Thank you.
So that will close the work session on LD 1580. Let's see, what have we left here? We're going backwards, I guess. So we may as well just go backwards. I do not see Representative O'Connell, but we'll take his bill up anyway because I don't expect him to be here, and we'll close with our own Representative Cuddy. So with that, I open the work session on LD 1436, an act to protect certain essential workers from infectious disease, presented by Representative Kevin O'Connell of Brewer. Mr. Langland, I believe this bill was tabled.
That's correct.
Does anyone in this committee have any solutions for maybe this unsolvable problem? Even though I know we all care about our workers and our essential workers, I'm not sure that we can see a way to require employers to stockpile PPE, but of course, that's my opinion. Chair recognizes Representative Drinkwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it was made pretty clear to us that there's a shelf life on a lot of these materials and that it was very cost prohibitive to try to keep everything updated. And I forget the gentleman's name, but he talked about the need for an additional warehouse. So I think it was made pretty clear that financially this is unaffordable. So I'd like to make a motion, ought not to pass.
It's been moved, ought not to pass by Representative Drinkwater. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Representative Bradstreet. Excuse me. Is there any discussion on the motion ought not to pass? Seeing no discussion, is the committee ready for the question? Committee clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hickman.
Yay.
Hickman, yay. Senator Guerin.
Yes.
Guerin, yes. Senator Miramont.
Yes.
Miramont, yes. Representative Sylvester.
Yes.
Sylvester, yes. Representative Bradstreet.
Yes.
Bradstreet, yes. Representative Cuddy.
Yes.
Cuddy, yes. Representative Drinkwater.
Yay.
Drinkwater, yay. Representative Gear.
Yes.
Gear, yes. Representative Morris.
Yes.
Morris, yes. Representative Pebworth.
Yes.
Pebworth, yes. Representative Prescott is absent. Representative Rader.
Yes.
Rader, yes. And Representative Warren.
Yes.
Warren, yes. That is unanimous of those present.
Members voting in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, 1 absent. The motion prevails. Ought not to pass it is. I will close the work session on LD 1436. 2 in a row, people, 2 in a row. Almost time for a press release. And with that, we will open our final work session for the day, LD 1231, an act concerning climate and community investment projects, presented by Representative Scott Cuddy of Winterport. This bill was also tabled. And so with that, I will ask Representative Cuddy if he is willing to let us know what he's thinking about his bill.
Yeah, so in the interim, between our last meeting and this meeting, I presented what an amendment would be to this bill in our last meeting. And our committee analyst, Mr. Langland, has written up what I presented to you in that last meeting. And that was sent out to the committee members roughly an hour and a half ago, I think. So everyone should have that in their email. But it is the bill as I presented it to you in our last work session on LD 1231. This is just the more sort of final form.
Thank you. Mr. Langland, would you like to walk us through the amendment that we have received about an hour ago?
Sure, I can share my screen if that's helpful too.
Thank you.
So as Representative Cuddy said, nothing substantive has changed since he sort of presented a bulleted list last work session on this bill of changes to the amendment. And so this is essentially just the final version and sort of making it look prettier. So I don't really have necessarily anything to add because nothing has changed since he described it at our last work session. I just made it sort of conform more in line with drafting standards and made it look like a document that could suffice as a bill. So the specifics are not changed from what he presented last time for those that have the bulleted list. And I should note also that he wanted me to work with the Public Utilities Commission because there was a provision about Class 1A resources, and we did hear back from the Public Utilities Commission that the language was clear to them and that they understood the intent, and that as it was drafted, that section of law worked for them. And you might recall there was a lot of controversy at the public hearing about sort of the solar racking definition. I think it was in Title 32. And the division responsible for that, actually, the Board of Electricians Examiners, was going to hold rulemaking hearings on a proposed definition. So that none of that is in here. So whatever comes out of the rulemaking, whatever is in statute under that provision is what it remains. So any modifications that were initially proposed for that sort of controversial section have been stripped. With that, I don't really have much to offer. I just, like I said, I sort of just made it look presentable, and nothing substantive has changed since last work session.
Well, Mr. Langland, I disagree. You always have something to offer, but any discussion from the committee on the bill sponsors amendment that has now been written out for us? Chair recognizes Representative Cuddy.
Thank you. Two things. One quick, I want to thank Mr. Langland because he was really quick with the work that he did on this, especially giving my penchant for forgetting to attach things to emails. When I say I'm going to attach something to an email, I'm not the best at that. So that was very good. I also do want to point out and be clear that while I did remove the racking language from this bill, it is my intent to put it into another bill that I have moving forward. So racking is something that's going to be dealt with because it's important that it stays in its proper place. But in terms of doing it on this bill, it turns out to be too large an issue to do in this bill. So that's why we removed it.
Thank you, Representative. Chair recognizes Chairman Sylvester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move ought to pass as amended with the sponsors amendment.
It's been moved, ought to pass as amended. It's been seconded by Representative Rader. Is there any discussion on the motion? Is the committee ready for the question? Chair recognizes Representative Drinkwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'd like to congratulate ourselves on 2 in a row. Sadly, I don't think we're going to make it 3 in a row because we heard tremendous amount of testimony from Chinbro, from Reed and Sargent about a level playing field, and they did not feel that the labor agreement requirement in this bill was necessary, and therefore I will not be supporting it.
Thank you, Representative Drinkwater. Any other discussion on the motion? Chair recognizes Representative Warren.
I just want to say I absolutely respect the differences of perspectives on that issue, but I just feel so excited and appreciative for all the work that Representative Cuddy did on this bill, and just appreciate the chance to be in support of it. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Representative. Any other discussion? Committee ready for the question? Ms. Thompson, please call the roll.
Senator Hickman.
Yay.
Hickman, yay. Senator Guerin.
No.
Guerin, no. Senator Miramont.
Yay.
Miramont, yay. Representative Sylvester.
Yay.
Sylvester, yay. Representative Bradstreet.
No.
Bradstreet, no. Representative Cuddy.
Yes.
Cuddy, yes. Representative Drinkwater.
Nay.
Drinkwater, nay. Representative Gear.
Yes.
Gear, yes. Representative Morris.
No.
Morris, no. Representative Pebworth.
Yes.
Pebworth, yes. Representative Prescott is absent. Representative Rader.
Yes.
Rader, yes. And Representative Warren.
Yes.
Warren, yes. That is 8-4 with 1 absent.
8 members voting in the affirmative, 4 in the negative with 1 absent. The motion prevails. Minority report.
I'm not to pass.
Ought not to pass it is. I will close the work session on LD 1231. It looks as though that brings us to the end of what we have scheduled and decided to take up today. We will be here on Friday to a work session on LD 677 and LD 1641, LD 1571, and anything else that we have left on our docket that has been tabled or not yet even worked for the first time. And with that, Mr. Langland, do we have any language reviews to close out our day so we can get some bills reported out of here?
Yes, I have one. Let me share my screen. I actually have 2, but I'll start with one. So this one was LD 319, which was Representative Brennan's bill about the fossil fuel industry and for-profit prisons. This is the final language. The committee vote was 7-5. And this is just the language final and the fiscal note final, minor cost increase to the general fund and to the retirement system for a fiscal note on that.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, please report that out.
Okay. The other one I have, it's a little bit different. Sorry to save the hard one for last. This one, you might recall, was Representative Lookner's bill, and it initially sort of extended the emergency rental assistance program that Maine Housing had been operating through COVID relief funds. But the committee voted to strike that and replace it with a resolve directing Maine Housing that when they report to federal agencies or to the governor, that those reports also come back to the committee. One thing that I wanted to flag was, and I don't know that Maine Housing has weighed in, but the resolve is for either a brief one-time thing or a brief period of time. And so the potential for the reporting might continue after the 130th legislature. So there's a couple of different options that the committee can take. If I recall correctly, in my conversations with Maine Housing, they were not aware of any mandatory reports to either the governor or their federal counterparts at this time. But the revisor's office did flag that if the committee anticipates that the reporting might extend past the 130th legislature, that we either allocate the language in statute, or if it's possible that there are no anticipated committee reports, that we sort of add an expiration date saying that it's effective through December 1st of 2022, which would be about the end of the 130th legislature, and thus this joint standing committee on labor and housing. And certainly we can revisit this. I just wanted to flag this for your attention and let you know that it was something that the revisor's office did want me to sort of discuss and report back on how the committee wants to proceed.
Can you show me the final vote at the top of the sheet?
I believe, I don't have it on this one because I have not processed this one yet, but I believe that it was a majority voting in favor and a minority voting ought not to pass. I don't know the specific breakdown, but so that's sort of where LD 1546 stands.
So what you're saying is that we might need some clarity before we can report this out. Chair recognizes Chair Lester.
What I'm understanding is that, you know, that there might just, the problem really is that there might not be any reports made. So we might not get anything. And then secondarily, that it might, that it would only be a one time as soon as the 1/30th was over. If it's unallocated language. And so what I would like to do is allocate the language and to make a sentence at the end that says, if no such reports are generated, then the Maine State Housing will report to the committee with a jurisdiction over housing on any rental assistance programs that are as part of their annual update.
Okay. So you want me to allocate the resolve into statute and then add that additional sentence?
Yes.
Okay.
And Mr. Langland, do you think that will require a revote or?
It's really the committee's discretion. I think the term is if it's a substantive change, then the committee should revote. But I think in terms of interpreting what's substantive relies at the discretion of the committee.
Yeah. Well, it would be up to, I think, those on the majority report to decide whether or not we think this is substantive or not. If in fact, I'm on the majority report, I don't even remember how I voted, but I'm going to assume that I voted with majority on this. I don't think it's substantive. I think it's a clarification of what it is we intend to do with what we've already voted on. That would be my ruling, and unless someone objects, seeing no objection, that's how we'll move forward. Thank you. Anything else, sir?
I don't have anything else, but Ms. McCarthy-Reed has a couple.
I do.
You.
I have 4. If
Wonderful.
you'd like to do it quickly, sure.
We can do it quick or slow as long as we do it.
All right, great. I'll just share them. There's 4 of them. These have all been previously voted by the committee. The first is LD 509. This was a unanimous report of the committee. This was Representative Dodge's bill that would allow teachers and other school employees to purchase service credit for time that would be lost because of lost seasons related to coaching or other extracurricular activities. So they could purchase credit for the stipend amount that they lost between January 1 of 2020 and July 1 of 2021. It would also include those amounts if they do purchase that credit in their average final compensation for retirement purposes. You saw the language of the amendment when you voted the bill, but we did not yet have the fiscal information. And I just wanted to share the fiscal note, which confirms the information we received from Maine PERS, that it has no fiscal impact to state or local school administrative units because the cost of purchasing this credit is on the member, not the employer. So that's the fiscal note to LD 509.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? I do have a question for the committee, and this is almost a repeat since this bill hasn't yet been reported out. Do we want to put an emergency preamble on this so those who would like to buy into this can do it as soon as possible? Question for the entire committee, since we all voted on it. Representative Bradstreet, Senator Garin, do you guys want to do that? And if we do want to do it, we can reconsider now instead of doing a floor amendment. We can just add it in committee. And so I would entertain a motion to reconsider our action on this bill.
I had stepped away to get a drink of water. Could you repeat your question, Senator?
I'm asking if, like we did with the provision for the law enforcement officers and first responders, if we would like to, instead of waiting until the floor, put an amendment on this bill to make it an emergency so that those who are covered by it can access the ability to buy into this as soon as possible. Since it's a unanimous vote in committee.
I think that's acceptable to me.
So in that case, I would entertain a motion to reconsider our action on this bill. We're all on the prevailing side.
So moved.
It's moved by Senator Guerin to reconsider our action on this bill, seconded by Representative Warren. All in favor of the reconsideration, please by a show of hands. Please turn on your videos. It's unanimous. So I entertain a motion to add an emergency preamble to LD. What LD is this? I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
509.
Thank you. We entertain a motion to add an emergency preamble to LD 509.
So moved.
By Representative Rader, seconded by Representative Cuddy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Ms. Thompson, please call the roll.
Senator Hickman.
Yay.
Hickman, yay. Senator Guerin.
Yay.
Guerin, yay. Senator Miramont.
Yay.
Miramont, yay. Representative Sylvester.
Yay.
Sylvester, yay. Representative Bradstreet.
Yes.
Bradstreet, yes. Representative Cuddy.
Yes.
Cuddy, yes. Representative Drinkwater.
Yay.
Drinkwater, yay. Representative Gear.
Yes.
Geary, yes. Representative Morris.
Yes.
Morris, yes. Representative Pebworth.
This was a clever way to get us to our third unanimous vote. Yes.
Is it the plan?
Pebworth, yes. Prescott is absent. Representative Rader.
Yes.
Rader, yes. And Representative Warren.
Yes.
Warren, yes. That is unanimous.
It's unanimous of all present and voting. The motion prevails. There will be an emergency preamble added before the bill is reported out. And if we need to see the emergency preamble before it's reported out, we will do that, but I don't think we really need to. So there.
Great.
Thank you. Next.
Great, thank you. I have 3 more. This is a bill, this was LD 1103. That was Senator Bailey's bill to allow 5-year open enrollment in the participating local district retirement program for certain law enforcement officers, firefighters, and other municipal employees. This is the majority report, ought to pass as amended. You'll recall from the discussions that Maine PERS recommended that the only way to allow this legislation to go forward was to clarify that member contributions for an employee that joins the participating local district retirement program, sort of rejoins, they have to do that with post-tax dollars or after-tax dollars. So, oh, and I apologize, I didn't include the right copy for you. I'll email that to the committee, but it just marked up the provision in the existing law to just clarify that it needed to be done with after-tax dollars. It was just a 1-sentence change to the legislation. And I'll get you the right copy. But again, the expectation in the fiscal note, which we received, is that there's no net fiscal impact on the retirement system. This is would allow eligible employees who choose not to enroll initially to become a member anytime up to and including their 5th year employment anniversary, and it would allow existing employees a one-time election after that anniversary is passed. They do implement, or excuse me, Maine PERS does estimate the cost of implementation to be up to $20,000 and will be reflected in future contribution rates to the retirement plan. So there's no net fiscal impact to the system in this biennium. If the legislation does go forward, though, because it does identify the potential for future costs, my understanding from the fiscal office is that it would be a legislation that would be referred to the special appropriations table, just so you're aware of that before final enactment.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Crosby from the committee? Seeing none, please report that out.
Great. Thank you. The next one is LD 1041. This is also a majority ought to pass as amended, minority ought not to pass. This was legislation that would add certain mental health workers under the 1998 Special Retirement Plan. The amendment that the committee voted on clarified that the scope of the employees that would be covered would be those crisis outreach and crisis service workers within the Department of Health and Human Services. On or after October 1 of 2021. This is a prospective change, allowing them to be eligible for the special retirement plan. You did not have the final fiscal information, so the legislation would include an appropriations and allocations section to provide the funding to add these employees to the special retirement plan. And here is the fiscal note, the anticipated costs of that in this first year of the biennium. It's a little under $120,000 annually and $13,903 in other special revenue funds. So that's the total, and then the actual appropriations and allocation section in the amendment will be specific to each program within the Department of Health and Human Services to add those ongoing costs. There were 2 accounts that were identified, and so this will provide those necessary funds.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Let's see, I don't see any hands raised.
Great,
So
thank you.
Work that out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then the last one, this is a resolve that would direct the Workers' Compensation Board to study the impact of workers' compensation laws on certain public sector employees. The legislation would require a study of the impact of the rebuttable presumptions for workers' compensation that we had talked about. The majority report on this bill is ought not to pass, and the minority report is ought to pass as amended. And really the only change is to the reporting date, requiring the Workers' Compensation Board to submit the legislation in January 1 of 2022, and also reflected a change from the original legislation, which required the report to go to the State and Local Government Committee. So this would make the change to the Labor and Housing Committee, and to the report back to the second session of the 130th legislature. And then I just wanted to point out the fiscal note, that there may be some cost to the Workers' Comp Board to do the reporting and develop the analysis required in the legislation. They can't determine the impact at this time. And it does affect other special revenue funds, not the general fund, because the Workers' Compensation Board is supported by other special revenue funds. So that's LD 1024.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Hearing none, please report that out.
Great. That was it for me.
Thank you. So, committee members, we have exactly one more public hearing, which hasn't been scheduled yet, but I'm going to ask Mr. Langland to schedule it for Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's LD 1711. It was brought to our possession today or yesterday or whenever it was. We got it. And since I still intend to be finished with our work on Friday, that's my intention. We don't get there, we don't get there, but we're going to try hard. So we'll do that first at 9 a.m. And it may be a longer day than I expected. So we'll just play it by ear with the work sessions that we have on the list. And we probably will be permitted to meet another day or two next week if we have to, but I don't want to. So I just want to focus on farming and then go to the legislature and vote out bills. But with that, I just wanted everyone to know that I know we will certainly be missing Representative Gear tremendously, but we will have a public hearing at 9 o'clock in the morning on Friday. Okay. Any questions, any comments, any concerns? Great. Joint Standing Committee on Labor and Housing stands adjourned. See you guys see all of you on Wednesday.
Bye.
Yes.
See you there.